Okay. Good morning. Welcome to our worship service at First Unitarian Church of Worcester, Massachusetts. I am Jay Lavelle, a lay leader and coordinator of summer services. Good morning to those of you worshiping with us from home, and good morning to those of you here in our sanctuary. I am leading worship this morning with our musician, Andrew Pack, our broadcast technicians, Henry Bolduck and Darren Belanger, and our usher is Karen O'Reilly. The service today is being led by Liz Gustavson of the Social Action Committee. Here at First Unitarian Church, we strive in loving fellowship to honor the sacred, connect with each other, and serve justice. We are a welcoming congregation. Whatever your age, race, class, nationality, sexual orientation, or gender identity, we are delighted to have you with us this morning. We are worshiping as one congregation in many places. We have people here in the sanctuary and people joining us online. If you're here in the sanctuary while keeping your mask on, feel free to participate in all the unison prayers and readings and sing the hymns. If you're at home, the words to readings and hymns will appear on your screen so you can join in as well. We will have a social hour with snacks in the garden, weather permitting, following the service. Feel free to remove your mask once you're outside. If you're online, you can like this video to help others find us and subscribe to our channel to find more content. And please add a comment on YouTube in the space below the video. We want to hear from each one of you. You can stay connected to the church through our website, firstunitarian.com, our Facebook page, and our newsletter. The newsletter is the best way to stay in touch and join our other programs. If you would like to receive our e-newsletter, please go to firstunitarian.com and click Subscribe to our newsletter at the bottom of any page.
Good morning. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We'll now do the chalice lighting. In the spirit of love, we light this chalice. Now please join in the covenant of our church. In the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of all. We'll now join in the Doxology. Please join us in the common prayer written in your order of service. It's by Everett Hale, minister of the Unity Church of Worcester, 1846 to 1856. It was the Unity Church that eventually merged with First Unitarian, and that's why we have our large hall called Unity Hall. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do something that I can do. Thank you. Please continue your own thoughts and prayers in silence. In our sacred time together, we share the joys and sorrows of our church with one another, whether spoken or silent. We have a prayer request from Bill Ruggieri, who is moving soon to Auburn to participate in a shared living situation. Please support him in his new home. We will now share in the Lord's Prayer. In our time of prayer and meditation, we reach out to one another in compassion as we say together the prayer of Jesus. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Our first reading is an excerpt from an article written by Rachel Naomi Remen called Helping, Fixing, or Serving. Dr. Remen is a physician and a therapist who, as a young woman, had an ileostomy, and she had the experience of being on the receiving end of helping. She says, fixing and helping create a distance between people, but we cannot serve at a distance. We can only serve that to which we are profoundly connected. Helping, fixing, and serving represent three different ways of seeing life. When you help, you see life as weak. When you fix, you see life as broken. When you serve, you see life as whole. Fixing and helping may be the work of the ego, and service the work of the soul. Service rests on the premise that the nature of life is sacred, and that life is a holy mystery which has an unknown purpose. When we serve, we know that we belong to life and to that purpose. From the perspective of service, we are all connected. All suffering is like my suffering, and all joy is like my joy. The impulse to serve emerges naturally and inevitably from this way of seeing. Serving is different from helping. Helping is not a relationship between equals. A helper may see others as weaker than they are, needier than they are, and people often feel this inequality. The danger in helping is that we may inadvertently take away from people more than we could ever give them. We may diminish their self-esteem, their sense of worth, their integrity, or even wholeness. When we help, we become aware of our own strength. But when we serve, we don't serve with our strength, we serve with ourselves. And we draw from all of our experiences. Our limitations serve, our wounds serve, even our darkness can serve. My pain is the source of my compassion. My woundedness is the source of my empathy. Serving makes us aware of our wholeness and its power. The wholeness in us serves the wholeness in others and the wholeness in life. The wholeness in you is the same as the wholeness in me. Service is a relationship between equals. Our service strengthens us as well as others. Fixing and helping are draining, and over time we may burn out. But service is renewing. When we serve, our work itself will renew us. In helping, we may find a sense of satisfaction. In serving, we find a sense of gratitude. Serving requires us to know that our humanity is more powerful than our expertise. In 45 years of chronic illness, Dr. Remen writes, I have been helped by a great number of people and fixed by a great many others who did not recognize my wholeness. All that fixing and helping left me wounded in some important and fundamental ways. Only service heals. Service is not an experience of strength or expertise. Service is an experience of mystery, surrender, and awe. Helpers and fixers feel causal. Servers may experience from time to time a sense of being used by larger, unknown forces. Those who serve have traded a sense of mastery for an experience of mystery, and in so doing, have transformed their work and their lives into practice. We will now have the offering. Our ministries at First continue to thrive because of your support. To support all that we do as a church, text 844-906-2338, followed by the amount you wish to donate. You can also go to The second reading is number 562 in the Gray Hymnal by Mother Teresa, called A Lifelong Sharing. Love cannot remain by itself. It has no meaning. Love has to be put into action, and that action is service. Whatever form we are, able or disabled, rich or poor, it is not how much we do, but how much we love we put into doing. A lifelong sharing of love with others. I'm Liz Gustavson, the current chair of the Social Justice Committee. Part of me wanted to start this sermon with this gospel hymn because I think it's important to be doing something. And so this hymn goes like this. You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do, oh Lord. You got to do when the Spirit says do. You know, what we do a lot here at First Unitarian, and so I'm here today to talk a little bit about what the Social Justice Committee does and maybe what an overarching view might be. But I want to reflect for just a minute on our covenant, which says, in the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of all. What do we mean when we say the service of all? Do we mean it? How do we do it? Do we do enough? To answer these questions, yes, I do think we mean it. Second, I think I'll be sharing some things about how things are done at First Unitarian. And third, I'll look into whether we're doing enough. There are so many places to expend our time, talents, and treasures. I believe we have about 250 members at First Unitarian, and I'm sure that many of our members donate regularly to or participate in causes that they believe in. We do have about a dozen people who are on the Social Justice Committee at church who gather monthly to report on the status of various projects. The Social Justice Committee is open to everyone, and how it is tended to work is that if you have an idea for something that you want to do, as I've said many times in my life here at the church, all it takes is one. All it takes is one person to do something to make a difference. And so we have people in the Social Justice Committee who are following their passion, but have a support of the committee in doing so. Here's a list of some of the actions that the Social Justice Committee has been involved with just in the past year, even in the time of the pandemic. People have continued to help out by bringing a meal once a month to the Dismas House. The Dismas Family Farm in Oakham is a program for, I thought it was for only men, but I'm now realizing it's both for men and for women who are coming out of prison and who want to turn their lives around. First Unitarian members bring a meal on the first Monday of the month for fellowship and for community involvement. The name Dismas House, it comes from the legend that you may have heard of Dismas as the thief on one side, who is on the cross to one side of Jesus, and he is called the penitent thief. He is the one who turns to Jesus and asks, Jesus, remember me when you come into the kingdom of heaven. So I think it's an appropriate name for the Dismas House project. They have a couple of houses in Worcester now, they're kind of like halfway houses and three-quarter-way houses, and then they have the farm in Holcomb to go to. Another project is the Interfaith Hospitality Network. We were one of the founding congregations in the Worcester area to get this shelter for families underway over 20 years ago. And we've been a faithful provider of funds. Our Christmas Eve offering has been going to the Interfaith Hospitality Network for probably 20 years. So that's a significant source of their money to keep their program operating. We also provide volunteers 3 times a year. And the director says that if we could not provide a week's worth of volunteers from 5:30 at night until 6:30 the next morning, she would have to find the funds for about $1,500 to cover the cost of paying a staff member to do so. So it's another way of saving money for the program. You know, in the course of the year, we save them some $5,000 by our volunteer efforts. I happened to be at I was volunteering at the shelter this week. And just a little status report. There's 20 people at the shelter. There are 5 families. 8 adults are living there, and there are 12 children, and 9 of those children are under 5. So we have a lot of young folks and a few teenagers at the program right now. A third program that is supported by people on the committee is called LIFT, Living in Freedom Together. It's a program committed to ending the sex trade by decriminalizing prostituted people, decreasing the demand for sexual actions like that, and they have a program that provides comprehensive exit training for the men and women coming out of the sex trade. A fourth activity is the Green Sanctuary. We have people who are concerned with helping our sanctuary reduce the carbon footprint of the church as a whole. And there's more than, so we have like one person on the Social Justice Committee who's been working with that, and other members of the church community taking a look at what we could do. Can we put solar panels on the roof? Can we do more to reduce our, to live more simply in our sanctuary itself? A fifth project is the Family Support Circle, which is a group of church members who are providing direct support to refugee families from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The work of these volunteers has been impressive. There's a profoundly deaf child who has been able to get the medical and educational resources she needs to make progress. We have our member Stacy Hill, who has moved out to Hardwick, but she's still involved with the families, and she has been providing a summer camp for the children of these families for several years now. We have other members who are driving the kids for various reasons. They need rides to and from school and to safe places for after school. We have a number of people who've been very active in that simple but very important issue of transportation. And there's one girl who's in one of the families who, because of interactions of the members of the support circle, she's gotten a scholarship to Worcester Academy. So that's very impressive. The Social Justice Committee has discussed the pros and cons of the zero fare busing on the WRTA and has advocated for a position on it. We have people like Lorna Pezzanelli, she has been organizing the Monday night speaker series, which provides educational opportunities for our congregation and good conversation and discussion after. Jenny Johnson has been our link to the LGBT Asylum Task Force. This is a program that's sponsored by Hadwin Park Congregational Church, and it's the only program like it in the country. They have over 30 people who have fled their countries of origin because of fear for their lives, because of their LGBTQ status. Ginny has been active in providing a meal once a month. The community meal serves about 60 people at Hadwin Park Church, and it provides a time for our congregation members to talk and get to know some of these asylees who are in like a little bit of a limbo status because it takes maybe 2 years to get a green card. So to have some support and connection with regular folks in the Worcester area is helpful to them. A big thing that a group of us has just started investigating is how we can shift from what we have typically been doing. You know, one of the things I've said a few times about in various meetings is that, like, I'm good with food. Like, I'm happy to cook. I'll make food for 60 people with not too much, worry. So a few years back, I helped out with making lunches for the Worcester Fellowship on the Common. That program has stopped because of the pandemic. I expect fully when that program comes back in, we'll start doing that again. But making food, bringing meals, that would be considered relief of a problem. You know, to help feed the hungry is a relief of a problem. A bigger thing is to step back and try to see what's causing people to be hungry. Or in the case of homelessness, what's causing people to be homeless? And so a bigger thing, and actually I would say probably a harder thing, is to have us, maybe continue our work with relief. People still need food, they still need shelter, they still need like emotional support, but also to be able to move to the bigger picture of what development would be. What would it take to make a change in the system, whether it's about racism, or whether about homelessness, or the inequalities in other ways in our society. So in the last couple of weeks, there have been a few meetings. People who read the Worcester paper may have seen that this week, Ed Augustus, our city manager, is promoting the idea of a $20 million housing trust fund. This is another piece. This would be having to do with development. The thing is, there will be lots of competition for that money, and our church could be helpful in promoting education and support for it by advocating for affordable housing, by being the host for a candidate forum. This is the year of the mayoral election and the city council elections. This is a great time to get those folks who want to be in charge of our city to come together. We have a terrific, facility here to provide space and like YouTube, video stuff for such a thing. And so our congregation, we could invite other congregations to come in so we can have some community support. We could invite people from the various community development corporations to come. They really know the questions to ask to try to get the people who are, making plans, maybe writing the checks, to get nailed down by the questions so that we can know as voters in the area, who will do what we want them to do. I was at a meeting at Worcester Common Ground, one of these community development corporations, a couple of weeks ago. They are doing a lot in the area of housing. There is an old factory building on the corner of Chandler and Piedmont Street that Worcester Common Ground is renovating for 31 low-income housing units. And Yvette Dyson, who's the head of that program, said, she works hard to get grants and stuff, and it's millions of dollars to do this kind of renovation. And she's making these apartments really nice. Like she said, this is the only time in the life of this building that we'll be able to do things like get granite countertops. So she's gotten the money and she's putting in granite countertops. So there really is going to be quite nice. housing for people. So at this meeting, I joined Vivian Shortreed, Jeff Conlon, Sarah Stewart came, and Joe O'Brien, who's a politically active member of our church, to talk about like how First You could be useful. And Joe mentioned the idea of us providing that support for the candidates forum, and the advocacy. They said that really people who are members of our local community have to be advocates for the low-income housing to help move it along, because if there's no push, it's not going to happen. Another idea that Joe brought up was the idea of wondering if First Unitarian could be helpful as an advocate for change and in providing resources. Like, for example, could we raise direct funds to help pay for a project? Or could we do what we did some years ago? Sarah told me the name of the program. I didn't write it down, I can't remember. But it was the program that developed a property on Elm Street for low-income housing. I think Frank Kartheiser was involved with it, and we wrote a check from a program from like some of our monies, whether a part of our endowment, and it was a low-income loan to that program, which over the years, that program paid us back. So we have money. Can we do something like that with the pot of money that we have? Can we share it to do good and get some of the money back with low interest? That would be a nice thing that's possible. In addition to political activism and to funding projects, there are also ways in which we could do more in terms of hands-on assistance. We could partner with Habitat for Humanity, and like the Dr. Remen's articles suggested, serve rather than help. We would serve alongside the homeowner who is doing their sweat equity to build a home or to renovate an older house. And that would be, we could plug into that. It wouldn't be something new, we could just plug into that. Yvette Dyson at the Worcester Common Ground invited us to help out with a number of projects that she is working on. In particular, it happens that she has gotten a grant for this building on Chandler and Piedmont. And on the roof of the building, she's planning to have a hydroponic garden. And she got the grant, and she got the stuff, and now she has all the stuff, and she does not know how to put the hydroponic garden together. So if there's anybody in the community who knows, who would be willing to help out, that would be a practical, hands-on thing to get started. Thank you. We have a way to go to determine what we could do, but some aspirations include helping one family become homeowners. This was Vivian's idea. Vivian Shortreed thought, could we just buy a house? We are people of some resources here in this community. Could we, pull together, buy a house, maybe fix it up, and then give it or sell it at a really reasonable low cost to a family who's trying to get their foot in the door for home ownership? That would give us, we would work with them and help them learn, for those of you who are home owners, it's not just like you buy your house and you're done. If you buy a house, it's sort of like a money pit, and you have to keep on doing things to keep it working. Another idea, I think this was from maybe Steve Knox, said, could we act as in place of a parent and pull together funds to help to provide a family with the down payment for a house, if that was the only thing that was stopping them from moving into the house. We all know, for those of us who have been lucky enough to have a home, it's useful to have the equity in that home over time versus writing a check for month after month. Having a chance to build equity is great, and if the only thing that stops them, if anybody has looked at the cost of apartments in Worcester recently, a 2-bedroom apartment is often going for $1,200. I suspect many of you have had mortgages much less than $1,200. You know, if they're able to afford $1,200, and if they had a down payment to get them into a house and had a mortgage of $1,200, you know, that might be a helpful thing. Okay. The Old Testament says in Hebrews 13:16, "Do not neglect to do good and to share what you have, for such sacrifices are pleasing to God." First Unitarian church members are good and generous people. People come to church here, as our covenant says, in the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus. We unite for the worship of God and the service of all, and for the wonderful music. On the back of the order of service is our mission statement, which the third point says, "Serve justice." We are committed to standing on the side of love and justice for our fellow human beings and all the earth. We are committed to caring for the global environment and for future generations. Let us continue to aim for those lofty goals. Now, please stand in body or spirit for the second hymn and remain standing afterwards for the benediction. This is a round. I like rounds. I think that they have some community participation cards, something like that. And we have Gustavson and Mark helping to lead them. So Anthony Pack will play the song "Building Bridges," which is number 23 in the teal hymnal. He'll play it through once, and then we'll sing it once in unison, and then Andrew will play some chords gently, and Chris will start.
Actually, we'll do it as a round twice, but first we hear it, then we sing it all together, then Marge will start where you see the little one, and those who are on that side of the church can follow her, and then when that group gets to the little circle 3, those who are on this side of the church can follow me, and we start at the beginning. So it's just like row, row your boat. You know, we start at different times, and it all works.
We'll sing it through twice for the round. Join in.
So we'll sing it through twice.
We'll sing it first
First in unison,
everybody, and then for the round part, we'll sing it through twice.
and then twice again. Okay.
And since this group will end earlier than this group, if you all want to join us for the tag end and we wind up singing all together at the end, that would be wonderful too.
Do you want me to do the introduction? Just play through it once?
Yeah, just play through it once. And then we'll sing it in unison after we hear it once.
This is from Carl Seaburg, a Unitarian minister. Between the dawn and dusk of our being, let us be brave and loving. In our little passage through the light, let us sustain and forward the human venture. In gentleness, in service, and in thought. Amen. Please be seated for the postlude.